if I told you that your lack of discipline is not lack of character, that it has nothing to do with being weak, lazy, or shameless, and more, that your brain, the way it was built, hates discipline, not because you are a lost case, but because it is doing exactly what it was trained for millions of years to do: save energy, seek quick pleasure, and avoid unnecessary effort. So the real question is not how to have more willpower. The question is how to make your brain stop sabotaging you and start cooperating. Because there is a way. And when you understand this, something frighteningly liberating happens. You stop hating yourself and start organizing yourself. Today, I'm going to show you how to trick your brain so it likes discipline, without artificial motivation, without ready-made phrases, and mainly without internal war. And I want you to pay very close attention, because at some point in this video, you are going to realize one thing. Maybe you are not undisciplined. Maybe you are just trying to win a game with the wrong rules. Think about what usually happens. You make a beautiful plan. Monday I start. Now it will. This time, it's serious. You even feel a peak of energy, a feeling of rebirth. Then the day arrives. You wake up and your body feels heavy. The bed seems like a sacred place. Your phone is already in your hand. And somehow, without you noticing, you are already scrolling the screen. And then comes the final blow. Guilt. What is my problem? Why can't I? Everyone can except me? And if I tell you that this cycle is predictable, that it is almost mathematical? Because your brain did not evolve to build a better future. It evolved to survive today. It was not designed for the gym. It was designed to hunt, rest, save calories, and avoid risk. Modern discipline, studying, training, working in silence, keeping routine demands one thing that your brain considers suspicious. Spend energy now for a prize that only comes later. And your brain hates later. It loves now. Now has dopamine. Now has relief. Now has comfort. The future is abstract. The future does not give immediate pleasure. So when you try to force discipline based on internal shouting, you are trying to defeat an ancestral system with half a dozen promises. And this even works for a few days. But do you know what always wins? Fatigue. Fatigue makes you return to autopilot. And autopilot does not choose what is best. It chooses what is easiest. And here comes the first turn. The problem is not your lack of discipline. It is the way you are trying to create discipline. Because discipline does not come from strength. It comes from design, from structure, from environment, from preparation. The most consistent people are not stronger. They just live in a way in which the right path is the simplest. They do not fight against the brain. They organize life so the brain stops resisting. And that changes everything. Let's enter a very real image. You decide that you are going to train early. Then you sleep. The next day you wake up, and the scenario is this. The training clothes are crumpled inside the drawer. The sneakers are somewhere you do not even remember. It is cold. The bathroom is far. And the couch is 3 steps away. Your phone is near, shining, calling. Do you see? It is not a fight of character. It is a fight of accessibility. You are not choosing between good and bad. You are choosing between easy and hard. And your brain will always defend the easy, because it was made for that. That is why, if you want discipline, you need to stop treating yourself as someone who needs a sermon and start treating yourself as someone who needs architecture. There is a term for this. Choice architecture. What is more visible, closer, and more available becomes behavior. What requires work becomes a promise. Your brain does not choose based on intention. It chooses based on friction. So the rule is simple. If you want to do something with consistency, you need to reduce the friction of the right and increase the friction of the wrong. This is what people call hacking discipline. And here is where many people make a mistake. They try to change the behavior without touching the environment. You want to study, but your desk is chaos. You want to read, but the book is stored away. You want to sleep early, but your phone is on the pillow. Then you call this lack of discipline. But discipline is not what you feel. Discipline is what you left ready. Discipline begins before the moment of decision. It begins the night before, in the positioning of things, in the way your house pushes you towards certain habits. So, let me ask you something very direct. Is your environment built to help you or to knock you down? Because most people live inside a trap, assembled by themselves. Now comes the second turn. Even if you organize the environment, there is still one problem. Starting. Initiating a task requires more energy than continuing. That is why you postpone. Not because you are lazy, but because the beginning seems too big. The brain looks and thinks, too much effort, little return. So the most elegant solution is not create a habit from zero. The solution is to glue a new habit onto an old habit. This is called habit stacking. You already have automatic routines. You brush your teeth. You make coffee. You sit on the couch and pick up your phone. You lock the door and leave. This is already programmed. So instead of trying to invent discipline from nothing, you use what already exists as a trigger. Like this. After brushing my teeth, I meditate 2 minutes. After making coffee, I write one line in the notebook. After sitting at the desk, I open the file and write one sentence. After putting on sneakers, I walk 5 minutes. Do you see the trick? You are not asking the brain to decide. You are creating a sequence. And when the sequence becomes consistent, it becomes a track. And a track does not need motivation. A track only needs repetition. But here there is a golden rule. The new habit needs to be small, ridiculously small. Small to the point that there is no internal discussion. Not, I will train 1 hour. But, I will put on the clothes and do 2 minutes. Not, I will study 2 hours. But, I will open the material and read 1 page. Not, I will write a chapter. But, I will write 3 lines. Because your brain does not resist the small. It resists the heavy. And when you start small, you gain one powerful thing: momentum. Momentum is what makes discipline happen without drama. Your body enters movement and the mind goes together. The problem is that most people try to start with intensity. And intensity is beautiful for 1 week. Consistency is quieter. And it is it that changes your life. Now, I want to dismantle a word that destroys people inside. Procrastination. Most people say, I procrastinate because I am like this. As if it were identity. As if it were a manufacturing defect. But procrastination is not laziness. Procrastination is bad design. It is a sign, an alarm. When you postpone, it is not because you do not want to win. It is because the way the task is assembled, it became boring, difficult, and without reward. The brain looks and thinks, I will suffer now to gain nothing. And then, it saves you from that with distraction. It gives you a short path. Social media, videos, food, anything that gives immediate reward. And here is the part that almost no one faces. Your brain does not want to destroy you. It wants to protect you from discomfort. But it uses primitive tools for that. So if you want to stop procrastinating, you need to follow 4 simple principles. 4 invisible laws for any habit to stick. First, Make it obvious. If you do not see it, you forget it. What is visible becomes priority. Second, make it attractive. It does not need to be incredible. It only needs to be less heavy. A tasty tea, a light music, a clean environment. Something that makes the beginning seem inviting. Third, make it easy. Reduce the task to the minimum that you can do even on a bad day, because it is on the bad day that the habit is born. Fourth, make it satisfying. The brain needs a feeling of conclusion. Check off a checklist, cross out an X, record progress, a mini reward. Now, imagine two versions of the same person. Version 1 wants to study at night. Material buried, messy desk, TV on, plan, 1 hour without stopping, without tracking, without reward. Result, TikTok, guilt, repetition. Version 2, material open on the desk, clean environment, a favorite drink, goal, 5 minutes, then marks progress and releases a short episode. Result, the habit sticks, not because the person became stronger, but because the person became smarter. She stopped fighting and started designing. And now comes the most liberating part of all, because maybe you are thinking, okay, but I still do not like these things. I hate waking up early. I hate training. I hate studying. I hate routine. And here goes the sentence that changes the game. You do not need to like discipline to be disciplined. This is a dangerous myth of productivity culture. Fall in love with the process. Love the journey. Do what you love and you will never work. Beautiful, but false. And worse, it humiliates who is trying to get out of chaos. The truth is simpler. Discipline is not liking. Discipline is making inevitable. Consistent people do not have will every day. They have structure. They leave the clothes ready. They reduce choices. They put the phone far. They create commitments. They transform the habit into pattern. Because when the right path becomes the easiest path, the brain stops resisting. It just follows. The decision happens before the desire appears. And this is an absurd piece. You leave the emotional war and enter healthy automatic mode. But there is one last level, the deepest. Because even with environment, even with habits, even with system, nothing holds for long if your identity continues saying, I am someone who cannot. The real transformation does not happen when you try to do different things. It happens when you start to see yourself as someone different. And this is not mystical. It is psychological. Every time you do a small action, you give a vote to an identity. When you train 2 minutes, you give a vote to, I am someone who takes care of my body. When you read 1 page, you give a vote to, I am someone who learns. When you write 3 lines, you give a vote to, I am someone who creates. And little by little, something changes. You stop depending on motivation, because your identity begins to sustain the behavior. You do not do it because you have to do it. You do it because it is who you are. And then discipline stops being suffering and becomes expression. Not perfect, but constant. And here is what I want you to keep as summary of this video. Your brain seeks immediate comfort. So do not fight against this. Use this. Reduce friction. Prepare the environment. Stack habits. Start small. Create simple rewards. And mainly, stop treating yourself as a failure. You do not need guilt. You need design. Now, I want to ask you a question and answer with honesty. Which habit are you going to redesign first? Will it be sleep, training, study, reading, focus at work, less phone? Comment down here, because writing this is already a vote for your new identity. And if this video cleared your mind, and helped you understand that discipline is not strength, it is structure. Then subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment, "I will redesign," so I know that you are starting. And if you want to continue in this line of silent growth and stable mindset, watch the next video that I am going to leave recommended to you now. See you there.